because what the nation is experiencing,
yes,
it's never been done before. And one of the things I'm appreciating is that the political class, they're having to tone down. Yesterday I went to church and the Gen Zs were there. And I remember my pastor, Bishop Morey, the GCC, he said, the distance between your nose and your mouth is very little, but you can never smell your own breath smelling unless someone is on the other side. The political class, they were all, they were too bold and braggadocious on Tuesday, but by Saturday, Kudonjo iliposhika, Aluta ikashika, they were now saying, we love your courage. We want to work with you. We want to talk with you. So for me, it's in Kenya, one day, a day in Kenya is amazing.
It's a long one. But was it change of tone, Wakili? It's just change of tone is just another tactic, reverse psychology, that, hey, you know, they thought it was going to be business as usual, but it turned out to be business unusual. So they had to tone down. It's a political step they had to take anyway.
Yeah, your first question is that this was expected. Expecting the context of the society has to reflect on itself. In fact, it's a continuous reflection.
Yes.
This stems from a very, I remember in law school, we had this argument as to what really is an election and what is democracy. And does it contract the leadership to the people?
Yes.
Is it a contract? And you see it as all hallmarks of a contract with the people, a socio-political contract, as well as an economic contract, save that it does not have the component of enforcement. The little components of enforcement, which then the people have very little power to, is on recalling or impeachment. Again, a representation all through by the political class. So what happens is, as at that time we had an older constitution. 2010, when we brought in the new constitution, we inserted a clause in Article 1, where somehow we put in powers to the people. It took time for that article to be understood by the people on what it means. What it means is there are two types of democracies, what we call direct democracy, where then we elect the people into power. We put them into power. The people who turn against you later. When they turn against you in terms of they don't aspire, they don't represent you, you fall back to Article 1, where now you exercise direct democracy.
You take charge.
Yes. When that happens, then you have to have a friction with the political class who are supposed to represent you, but they do not do it. And therefore, you exercise sovereignty as against the establishment. Now, what I've seen and what comes into my mind is that there's a mutation. There's a reflection of society on if a person comes with a manifesto to me and tells me Mama Mboga, Boda Boda, and all that, then it comes to implementation and execution, that is not being done. Yet I elected you on account of the social contract, socio-economic contract, socio-political contract, which we agreed.
Yes.
We had forums where we talked. But I have no mechanism of going to court, for instance, to say there's a breach of this contract. There's a breach of this agreement. The only way I do it is go back to Article 1 and exercise direct democracy, where then I tell you, you will not continue in the manner you're going on because it is a breach of our agreement.
But were the political class ready for this Article 1 to be put in action?
They will never be. I tell you something.
Yes.
They will never be, because once you assume office, you become a legal representation.
Exactly.
Now, there's something called legitimacy. Legitimacy is the constant understanding that you represent me, notwithstanding the law.
Yes.
Because you see, the law operates at the instance of the election, where then you are confirmed to be in office. But after that, you must continue to know that you represent the people, and therefore you are legitimate to the agreements, political agreements you had with the people. Once you lose legitimacy, then the societal fiber is shaken, and therefore, eventually the people question you, and therefore, whether you are ready or not, but the people are not ready in the first instance for the breaches of the promises that you made.
Yes. And that's, that's more of like a vote of no confidence, because if that legitimacy is now lacking, you're given that legal mandate to represent them directly, And now that Kenyans, all the people exercising their Article 1, that it means that they're not ready, as politicians, they will not be ready to have that vote of no confidence against them.
2013,
right.
A new government came to office. Uhuru Ruto. Tumetoka analog tuko digital. 10 years later, digital inaonekana now. They are now realizing this one, we don't know. We don't know how to deal with it. And let me just say this in a nutshell. In 2017, I ran for the president of the Republic of Kenya. Lakini sikupita WhatsApp status. In 2020, sikupita WhatsApp status. In 2021, I ran for the governor of Nairobi. I was cleared by the IBC.
Yes.
I was gazetted. I went around the county gathering signatures, and the question on ground was always, Fadela, kwani tu ni Ruto na Raila, hakuna mtu mwingine? And then I knew there is a gap here. Something is missing. So by 2022, I ran again for the presidency of the country. I approached a political party. One media house took my craziness. For 7 months, I was articulating the vision and stuff. And I kept telling them, listen, there is a gap. By the time we did our elections, you noticed that there were 8 million guys who did not vote, who were tired. Now they are the ones who are organizing, and they are making this thing come into foreplay. Now the president, in hindsight, he has worked with, you remember the first time he ran for office in 97, he ran under the slogan, Ukweli wa Mambo.
Yes.
All right? So he won against the president's man in 97. 2022, he ran against the president and his man and won. All right? But all through the journey, he was next to Baba. Now, a story is told where the lady who was petting a snake, and the snake grew and grew and grew, and one time the snake decided it's not going to eat. And then she took the snake to the vet and said, is there anything wrong with my snake? And the doctor said, wait, has the snake been lying next to you? And we're like, yeah, no, the snake is not sick. It's preparing to swallow you up. So this generation that was born between 2002, 97, the Gen Z, the Zoomers, they have been lying and watching the millennials, the way we have been battling for political space, and now the strategy they're using, the digital space, it's caught everyone off guard. You know, even in leadership, they say a monster which has 2 heads is easier to deal with because you know 2 heads.
Yes.
But now the president doesn't know what to deal with. They are all over. So in that context, I am in agreeing with what the law is saying. I agree that the society now is getting to a point where they're saying, let the youth rise and talk on our behalf. And you notice here, Juicy,
yes,
the cops even they didn't know what to do. Because they are wired for hardcore. This is soft power that is permeating, and the government does not know what to do.
Hold on that. That's exactly what's on the front page of the local daily. Starting with the Daily Nation here. Listen to the youth, the Church tells the state. Here is what's on the front page of the Daily Nation here. And it was expected. Security agents have also been warned against using excessive force on protesters, something that we'll also be discussing. Now, the church leadership yesterday broke its silence on the ongoing mass protest against the Finance Bill 2024, calling on the government to urgently intervene and listen to the grievances raised by the youthful demonstrators. And now, who are oppressed, strong opposition to the controversial tax bill. Meanwhile, President William Ruto said that he's proud of the young Kenyans and promised to address their issues. Wakili, let me ask you. The president said that he's ready to listen to them. So what it means that he never listened to them in the past?
No. I think it's the problem of the society, not just the president.
Yes.
He's part of the society. The society has ignored the youth. The youth have always been the leaders of tomorrow. But the constant remains, once you move from the youth to an adult, you don't become the leader of tomorrow.
Yes.
The tomorrow never comes. But you see, one, the cutaway there is that one is society. Kenya is growing. It can then reflect on itself and say what is good and what is bad. So the truth is, Kenyans therefore know the good and the bad and what is needed to be done. You see, there are types of people, there are different types of people. The first one is a thinker, who is a theorizer. He theorizes on what is good for something. Even if you are forming a chama or an organization or a company, there are those who will say, we form a society, we will sell avocado, we will do this and that. But then, when you come to execution, nobody executes. So that in society, we know what is good for us. But then nobody takes the first step. And the reason why Kenyans do not take the first step is, one, the existential threat of destabilizing an equilibrium, which is, look, I have an M-Pesa shop, it will be looted. I drive a car, my children go to school, and that equilibrium is a comfort zone which you don't want to disturb.
Yes.
The problem of the middle class. But then the person who should disturb it is one who is suffering without that comfort. Until you're comfortable, you're uncomfortable. So the middle class, those with jobs or something to do, will wake up in the morning and want to go to work and don't want to be disrupted. And that's why Raila will protest, but others would be against it on account of the fact that they get disturbed and they don't want that to happen. But then those that actually come out are the ones that have nothing to lose. The bottom billion of the pyramid. Those that have nothing to lose, including the youth. They have no jobs. They are graduate. They've done everything the society wants them to do, which is when you're born, you crawl, you eat, you go to school, and you get your degree or whatever the society wants you to do.
That,
Once you get there, then the society leaves you alone. It abandons you as if you did not fulfill your obligation in society. And therefore the question is, yes, now I have a degree in actuarial science. What do I do with it? I have a degree in journalism, in law. I have no job. What am I supposed to do?
Hold on to that.
And therefore, this is a problem of society that we have not dealt with. We've ignored the youth, and we continue to ignore them, even in budgeting. We talk as if it's our money alone, and therefore everything we talk about is infrastructure benefiting the middle class, those that are earning, and those that have already jobs. So those with jobs are budgeted more for purpose of benefiting them. But those that are without jobs, nothing infrastructure is put into place, for instance, in the budget for purpose of improving them. They are asking that question, where are we in this budget? It's a simple question.
Exactly.
Although packaged in political terms or whatever it is, it's a simple question that the government and the society must answer.
I like the fact that all of you have run for political office before. Kithi, yes. Jasiel, yes. What heat do you think the politicians are feeling right now? Even as you respond to this, the president said that he's ready to listen to them and is proud of the Gen Z because they are exercising their right.
Let me give you an honest answer. President William Ruto, being interviewed in 2013 as DP in one of the media houses, he was given a chessboard. And then he said he does not know chess. And then he said, what's the work of the bishop? And I went like, this guy does not know chess. But by now, I saw one of the Azimio leaders last week say, why is the West not talking? Guy has gone round states, France, where all the countries globally, and now he's here. You can't go anywhere. All right?
Yes.
And so the political class now, you're all in a cocoon where this guy is dealing, is making all the decisions. Last week on Thursday, guy said Zakayo Shuka. He was in Garissa, and he was saying mambo ni matatu. But after that evening, and the way these guys were braggadocious in pride, saying, oh, these guys are just KFC and everything. You know, it's never happened in Kenya. Aluta, Kudonjo, all clubs, 12 midnight. And then the party you saw at the street, the carnival you saw at the street, they were like, hold up, we need to re-strategize. And so for me, when I see the political class, Mr. President, I was watching Shaquille O'Neal, and I told you I'm in the millennials, and Shaquille, as big as he is, and you dunk, and everyone would watch Shaquille, he couldn't throw free throws in the basketball. And everyone wondered, how come you can't throw free throws? You know what Shaquille said? You know, it's God's way of humbling me. This thing that has happened, the president needs to realize this is God's way of humbling him. Because now he can't deal. He's calling all the security guys. It's springing up from everywhere. And so for me, if for a future president advising the current president, calm down, just listen to these guys. Now here's the thing. The beauty of this thing, there is no leader. So he cannot bring a leader and talk.
It's an amorphous movement.
This amorphous thing, he would call Baba. Baba would say, calm down. Watu wanashuka. This one,
but of course, Baba was told Baba to stay away. That lady told his Baba, stay away.
You know why? Unajua kwa nini? Washaona. Ikitu vile nenanga watu nufulani ndo wanaingianga kana.
On the front page of the Standard, Fadela, hold up. The revolt continues. That's exactly what you're saying. All right?
Yeah.
The revolt continues. And there's so many. At some point, politicians were saying that they would drive to town in taxis and all that, eat some good food in some private outlets in town, then all of a sudden, voila, they're in the streets. But I don't know whether that is the situation. And on the street, on the front page of the Standard, it says that the revolt continues, just as simple as that. It says that as MPs gather to debate the finance bill tomorrow, Kenyans have also reiterated their stand that they object punitive tax measures. Yesterday, they made their point in churches and other worship places. But President William Ruto has also promised to listen to the issues, but he too was heckled in Nyahururu as he attended a church service. He never expected that, Wakili. That was not expected of him.
The President Moi and his politicians were very ironclad and consistently and persistently refused multipartism. But one day, Section 2A was repealed.
Yes.
And we have multipartism to date. The reason why he was ironclad is called the political class wanted to continue to exist by protecting themselves then. But he listened to the people until the moment, the Eureka moment in Parliament, when Section 2A was repealed. Right. He didn't listen. For a very long time, he didn't listen. People were brutalized and abused. He didn't listen. But the people's power is such that one day he listened. And when he listened, country changed. Up to now, that change is still persistent and consistent. And in fact, it is that which informed some of the provisions in the current constitution. Because we were trying to treat some mischief out there. If you don't listen, you will still listen. The point is, the socio-political contract is about us and you who is ruling us.
Yes.
So a contract is negotiated. It is not you to say what you want. It is what the contract says, that you're going to rule us within the confines of the law and the promises that you made. So for the first time in this country, and that's what I'm saying, why it is a change that is good for the country is, we are asking you, where is the water? Where is the education system you promised? Where is this and that? We're not asking for much. We're not asking for much. We're asking, where is this that you promised within the constitutional framework? Especially when we see that in your budget, you're not budgeting for that which you promised. That's all. So the point is, I do think that the friction obviously is exhibited in those that are in ruling class and those that are being ruled. Being that the ruling class is in self-preservation. It can only do that for so long.
Yes.
But it can do it because there exists certain power that we gave them when we elected them. This is what happens. You exercise power onto the extent of the environment we give you, the playground that we give you.
Yes.
When we limit the playground consistently until a time when it is so short, you realize that you are threatened. You will have to comply. You either comply now, or you comply tomorrow, or in future, but complying, you will. Because we've seen it before, and I encourage Kenyans.
Yes.
It is not illegal. It is not a mistake. Neither is it immoral for you to demand that which you've been promised.
That's called for Article 37 and 32. Yes, Jasiel.
We are now heading into the politics of responsibility and accountability. If you bring up your manifesto, you will now have to do as you say per the letter.
Yes.
And the modus operandi of this revolt, as you've clearly stated, they had an online meeting on Saturday on X, and what I loved, they said, you guys go register and become voters. If that is the direction of a revolt, a revolution, then kudos. You know why? Because then we are going to come up with a political class that will shape the narrative from the bottom to up. All right? From MCA, MP, all that. If this revolt has no direction, we do not want to end up like the Arab Spring, because they have never recovered even up to now. So if the guys, if you notice, the millennials were offering technical support, they were offering vision, these other guys were coming with the digital and everything. That merger, if I would speak to the Gen Zs, I would say, listen, the direction, the trajectory you're taking towards registering as voters, then by 2027, Occupy Parliament, you will make a lot of sense. And so right now, what the government is realizing, they're being put to task to deliver. And because I've not been asked, let me just give free wisdom to the president. Mr. President, if this is the thing, I would advise, hold up any business you have up to 30th. Postpone tomorrow, go to State House, say you want to meet the guys in Kasarani, they will mobilize themselves, go and have a 15 minute or 30 minutes and say you want to talk to your children. Because if you don't do that, these guys are ready to put you to task. So for me, I want to give a kudos, because if the revolution will get to a place where they register as voters, then we are going to see a 2027.
But do you think they are ready to listen even to the government right now? Because whatever is happening is a revolt, is as a result of failed promises.
True.
So what will make them to soften their stance? I want you to come back. As you can see at the tagline, that is youth and governance. That is exactly what we're talking about. I have got a president who never passed WhatsApp status.
future president, Jasiel, Njau, aka Fadela, coming soon.
You never passed a WhatsApp status. That is an interesting
2017.
one. Okay, George Kithi, stay with me, gentlemen. We want to talk about youth and governance moving forward. And I still have the front page of the Star newspaper revealed the age crisis in civil service, completely different from most of the other papers. Let's take a look at that when we come back. Stay with us.
Unajua, token mita yako inahitaji system update. Ni rahisi na ni free. Ukipata ujumbe kutoka Kenya Power, yani SMS, weka kodi ya kwanza kureset, alafu weke kodi ya pili kuupdate, ili token mita yako iendelee kufanya kazi kama kawaida. Update token mita yako. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Kenya Power and Lighting Company.
Kikohozi cha muda wowote, kutokwa na jasho kwa wingi usiku, uchungu kwenye kifua, afya kudhoofika, tafuta matibabu. I'm living the dream, yeah.
Every day we are go fight.
Imwa TB wa ishi poa.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
continue the discussion. Let me take you very quickly on the front page of the Star newspaper revealed the age crisis in civil service. What you have that more than a quarter of the workforce is made up of people aged over 50 years. And now that is on the front page of the Star newspaper. Again here, Ruto says that he's ready for dialogue with the protesters, something that we touched briefly before we went on a break. And yesterday he was in Njau, but immediately after that there was some protest as well. And they were chanting, "We are peaceful." That was the message. But gentlemen, much as this is happening, we've also seen a couple of arrests. You know, people being held incommunicado, people being, you know, no one, okay, so to speak, have come out to say who actually abducted them and for what reason. But why all of a sudden? Wakili?
You know, I did something in one of the units in the masters called the art of negotiation.
Art of negotiation, yes.
Art of negotiation is a skill, and you ordinarily, the negotiators, the parties or protagonists in the negotiations, ordinarily they must take stock of the strength and weaknesses, your strength and your weaknesses, vis-a-vis the strength and the weaknesses of your opponent, all right? And in this friction, we have government on one side with its massive strength and its weaknesses. It has weaknesses. And the protesters too, the Gen Zs have their strength and their weaknesses. You see, in the fact that they're disorganized or they don't have a leadership in itself is a strength and common in all protests in this country, the history of protests in this country. But that also heralds a weakness of its own kind on account of the fact that I do know that news and political clamor in this country has its own shelf life. And therefore, for you to be persistent, to be insistent, to be continuous, you need a reason for that. Something that fuels you, that is uncommon. And what we've seen is even protests have the limit in this country. The protesters must therefore, for them to be consistent and persistent and to threaten the establishment, must find a reason to keep the fuel burning. The government, now that it knows the rhetoric of protests and news in this country, must find a way to, to limit or to stretch the elasticity of the protestation until such a time when then it dissipates. One. Two, if it doesn't dissipate, then that which you ask for, we pull the rug under your feet. We are doing it for you. And the overhaul, because that's where the clarion coalesces, the clarion call coalesces, and that is the budget. The budget must somehow appease to the protesters, the youth, the Gen Zs. It must address its issues. You know, in a budget, you collect money. It's basically a transaction. When I give you money, I'm in a hotel and give you my money, and I want tea, white tea, black tea, or coffee. You give me that.
That's what I want.
You give me that. But you can't basically take the money, and I see you burning my andas on the side with my money, and I'm watching. Today, tomorrow, the other day, what will I do? I'll rise and I'll protest. This is what happens. When I give you money as a government, I give you my money. What I want is the hospital to be equipped, to be built, the road to be... And if you can, then explain to me, which is called accountability. Show me what you've done with money.
And that
it's
is exactly
basically
what
a purchase transaction. We are purchasing services.
Yes.
It's not for free.
From what we've heard even from
Number
the...
two,
yes.
let me tell you this.
Okay.
We are not in this country for free. We're not in this country for free. We're in this country because we pay to be here. Look, we pay taxes to be in this country. Otherwise, where would we be? We expect, therefore, in this environment in which we live, that which we are paying for, we are compensated. Compensation is organic. It is a fact. It's supposed to be seen. How are you compensating me?
Okay.
So the point is,
yes,
either I'm getting that which I pay for, I don't. The point is we do not know what we are paying for. That's really the protest.
Jasiel.
Yes.
He doesn't know what he's paying for, but he pays to be in this country. All right.
This brings the introduction, and I love this argument. When you look at President Uhuru, he had a docket called the Presidential Delivery Unit, right? And in this government, it's an advice, all right? You cannot come and say tumetenga, tumeweka, tutafanya, and then still come and tell us, I have done. There needs to be a middleman, a middle person to show the delivery. Here is the chai, all right? Mandazi is coming. Now, if you've been in a relationship with a lady who has been cheated and lied to before, when you come again, even when it's like what they say, akiona kamba, anaona nyoka. So they fear that. So this generation, the protest that is happening between the millennials and the Gen Zs particularly, is because they have been lied to, they have been told, they have been given promises, alafu unaweka huko juu, and then you don't see the results. So the delivery aspect, and it's my prayer, if he gets time to talk to the Gen Zs, I would say, create another arm within government that will show your delivery. These ICT hubs, bring people, you know, it's sad when a guy, Wandudi, who has done engineering, and you said serikali ya Mama Mboga, this guy was talking, he mentioned the guy he has who has done doctor about for 7 years and he's now selling bananas and stuff. Those are the people you should bring on board so that people begin to see you're doing it. And you see, last year the finance bill, you want to ride on the progresses of the last year finance bill, the way the economy grew, you know, we are 29th in the world and everything. But you see now this year, the Gen Zs and the millennials, they have realized, we've been taken for a ride for too long. So my take to the government is you need to find a way and bring that, and also to note what you said about the church. Now, yesterday you find them in church, and what they're echoing, the mothers and the fathers are clapping. Because this generation from 202, when Moi must go, they came into development, they saw it with Kibaki, they are seeing it, they saw it with Uhuru, now they want to see it with you. So if I was to be us...
Fadela, do you know they received free education?
Now, with that free education, and now they have all these degrees, they want jobs, they want all this. So for me, I go back, we're getting to a place of politics of accountability. The president, I'll separate the president and the presidency. He needs to overhaul his presidency because everyone who stands out to talk, they're just doing harm to him. And for him, he needs to create another unit so that these Gen Zs and the millennials, we can begin to say, we are seeing.
Who will go home from his cabinet? Let's listen to what the president said yesterday in Nyahururu. Let's listen to that.
I am very proud of our young people. They have stepped forward tribeless. They have stepped forward peaceful. And I want to tell them, we are going to engage them. We are going to have a conversation so that together we can build a greater nation.
The Gen Zs have...
Kithi, pick it from there. He's proud of them. He's going to have a conversation moving forward.
Yeah, but the problem is he needs to be trusted. He needs to have that image of trust. You see, if you break trust or you threaten a contract, you threaten an agreement, what else would people do? The protest should be read as people enforcing or demanding that which they were promised, against which they gave their vote. Because a vote, you can sell your vote if you want. But when I give you my vote against a promise, I expect the promise to be executed. Why is it that I'm not executing it? So the question of trust here, a trust that has been broken or has been substantially threatened.
Yeah.
So when I like what the president said, because that's the way to go. He could have chosen to say, you should be home. Otherwise, I'm going to bring the General Service Unit and the police as against you.
Yeah.
That's one choice. But he chose, which is wise. He chose to say he's engaging. So the political decibels are going to be toned down. All right? That should first be in Parliament. What is the issue? The budget. You can't say the budget by all means will pass. Let us have a discussion on it. Who is going to pay for that budget or fund it? It's us. Like I said, we're not in this country for free. And therefore, the first clarion call is that which we're complaining about must be addressed first to show good faith as we speak. That good faith has not been displayed by anyone. The mere talk of engagement when the issue is still as it is going to pass because they have the numbers, then it means we're not addressing the issue. There's no need to talk when that which you're complaining about is still is persisting in its pursuit to be passed, right? But this is the point. You see, the societal edifice is roughed with layers. We have rich people up there. We have the middle class with their own upper middle, lower middle, and all. Then we have the bottom billion, the most dangerous class, bottom billion. Ordinarily, a Kenyan, a voter is a tool of trade for a politician. The tool of trade upon which then you use, you cajole, you seduce, you do whatever you want for purpose of ascending into power. When you get there, the indiscipline starts with the politician, not pursuing the ideals of the agreement that we had when we were electing into power. That's the abuse. That's the defilement that politicians impose on its people. When you put there, it's good faith because we laugh, we dance for you. Didn't we sing? Didn't we sing? Didn't we dance? Didn't we wear t-shirts of colors? Didn't you seduce us? Didn't we agree with you? When we agree with you, then you defile that agreement. You defile it. You abuse us. Article 1 exists. What we are saying is we need to enforce the socio-political contract. That's what the Gen Zs are saying. And in doing so, you do not do it by pleasing a certain clientele base up there, hoping that the ones who will fund you...
Who is being pleased?
Yes. Hoping that you can't take money to people merely because they sponsored you or funded you during elections.
Okay.
You have to deal with the entire societal fabric. And wait, you can't say this. Now, wait a minute. Wait. Let me say this. It is impossible. It is impossible for you to come and tell us on our face, this government has shares. Which shares?
Which shares?
Which shares?
You see, the clip you've just seen, it goes again to reiterate the fact I told you between the president and the presidency. Because yesterday, other MPs were saying, these Gen Zs don't know what they are doing. We feed them, we pay for their school fees. But you see, the president is wise enough to say, I'm willing to have a conversation.
There is a woman who said
Exactly. You get?
On record.
So he needs, the way he's streamlining his people, and before we went for the break, he needs to create another arm. You know, you asked the question, who is going to go home and the likes. So for adding to his point on, he needs to be trusted. Okay? Come down, create another avenue where these people can put you to task for this that you're doing. Because he has good ideas, he wants to implement, but
that position will be only for one person. These were almost 8 million plus.
Let me tell you.
Over the weekend, there were 50,000 plus on Twitter Space discussing.
Exactly.
So a position for just one person will not do
it's not for one person. Not for one person. Power devolved, right? Now, for example, some of the visions that the president has for the youth in terms of building the ICT hubs in the counties, all right? So if you have people in those counties, I mean, if your party is there as UDA, all right? The constituency of the Gen Zs and the millennials in that area, they put the vision to task to see it implemented. In Nairobi, the same. All right? So you have a caucus of people who are willing to put you to task, to test and see if what you're saying is true. And what he's saying about in terms of conversation, he's a master orator. You know, like he said, he can charm. So let him go personally and talk. You know, when he was going for elections and he was campaigning, President Ruto would come and sit down and talk to you. Let him do that now. And listen to these guys, because even as we're talking as per now, they don't know what to do.
You know what I'm feeling? The generation, all the protesters are not looking, they don't want a conversation. That phase of conversation is long gone. They want an action, they want something done now.
Now, I agree with you.
Yes.
But now we're discussing on the way the president said he wants to have a conversation. Calm these guys down because they are tired, they don't want a conversation.
So what is going to calm them down? That is my question. What's going to calm them down, Wakili?
Yes, I think the budget is what has coalesced the national psyche into one big movement of we do not want this budget and we have to look at our country and have action on it.
Yes.
They're asking for action. But then the time for conversation is ordinarily the campaign period. All right? That's where lies are thrown left, right, and center. We know that. But we do know that there's things that you can't lie to. There are things that you can't lie to. But let me put it this way. I do think the president will take control of this. I do think he has a chance. I don't think it's all lost for him. It's not all lost. I think the instruments of discussion, the normal instruments where we trusted them for purposes of engaging on behalf of society, those ones are the ones that are not trusted. One is Parliament.
Yes.
Parliament is the weakest link here. It's supposed to represent the people. It is not representing the people. It is not representing the people. It is representing itself. It is a motley assemblage of persons that look at their political survival as opposed to the people. Number two is the church. The church has a problem because it is organizing itself into a commercial entity.
Yeah.
Where then the benefits are the monies that come. So if you have an enterprise that brings money, people bring money, including politicians, whatever they get the money, then you survive. And the third is basically, of course, the government representation itself. We don't trust it. And if that is the case, therefore, we then can't have them debate for us or speak for the Gen Zs, which is this, that this is not a solution that is going to be in Parliament.
Yeah.
The president is right. The president is right and everyone is right when he says this thing is in Parliament, let's decide. That's okay because that's the law. But legitimacy is not that. Legitimacy is for you to be able to be seen as a president, as an MP. Let me tell you, it's possible for you to be a father in the house, but that's a name. The father in the house is the one that provides for the family. It is possible, therefore, for you to go home, enter into the house and nobody's saying hi to you, nobody's serving you anything. It is also possible that when you're approaching the house, the children are running up to you to say hi to you. The reason is because you are discharging yourself according to the expectation, either expressly or impliedly. But when you are a drunkard father, you beat your wife and your children, nobody will look at you, nobody cares about you, and you lose legitimacy. Legitimacy, therefore, is more important.
There's some drunkard fathers who buy a quart of nyama on their way back home.
That point you've said is what I go back to what I said. We have up to 30th. The budget is the bone of contention. We have up to 30th. You can suspend it. Right now as I'm speaking, yesterday one of my economic advisors called me and told me they are being told to go take their children home because of what is going to happen tomorrow. The shutdown, all right? And so if you have the heart and we want to trust you, okay, just suspend tomorrow. We have like up to 30th. Then the people will say he wants to talk. Let's listen to him talk. But if you continue the way you did last week, all right? So if you're in goodwill and you say as a president you want to talk, suspend the business tomorrow.
Do you think it's even possible to suspend the entire finance bill?
No, you are pushing it to a few days to show you are willing to talk. All right? Because it's a small window. It's a small window. And if Kenyans are going to get to the place where they can trust you, they can trust you, you also have to show. You also have to show. And when President Moi said, Wanjiko, all right? Nowadays, let me just call them Shiko. Shiko amechoka. Shiko amechoka. And if Shiko amechoka, Shiko wa Kiambu, Shiko wa Western, Shiko wa Mombasa, if Shiko is tired, find a way to communicate and show that you're willing to meet them halfway. Meet them halfway. If that doesn't happen, you're going to necessitate something that is being irreversible is going to be a problem.
Wakili, you talked about the churches, and yesterday was a serious one. Let's listen to what the clergy said.
The Gen Zs have no tribe, no religion, no class, but they are our children. They are not enemies of the nation.
Ruto acknowledging that he has been watching closely the recent developments and urging the youth to come to the table to air their grievances.
So to Your Excellency and the leadership of this country, this is a discerning moment. Not so much talking, but I think listening to one another and reaching out.
Their liberation is also our liberation. If anyone sinks, if anyone drowns, we also drown with them.
In addition, they would grant the youth time at the pulpit to speak on the finance bill.
This bill seeks not only to overtax Kenyans, but also to promote oppression, which generally leads to a very poor quality of life for most people who are not as endowed as the people who are in power.
The support from the church as a whole is an important thing when it comes to ensuring the agenda of rejecting the Finance Bill 2024 is successful.
The traditional Sunday hymns temporarily set aside as the congregation was led by the youth in chanting anti-finance bill slogans. A similar script played out at the All Saints Cathedral Church. Provost Reverend Evans Omolo reiterated the need for the government to engage the youth on the bill.
And therefore we applaud the courage of the young people to come out and to express themselves, an expression which is protected in the Constitution under Article 37.
He added that the church has opened its grounds as an emergency medical center for demonstrators who may be injured or need medical attention during the protests slated for next week.
All Saints Cathedral is historic, and we stand on the shoulders of our forefathers who went before us, who stood for what is right and opposed what is unjust. And that remains our position, that we will stand with what is right.
Youths in the church called on the Inspector General of Police to take responsibility over incidents of brutality, even as they rallied their peers to show up for the demonstrations next week.
One thing to the Kenyan police, tafadhali, it's a very peaceful protest.
I have a problem specifically na clauses ina affect our parents na hawajui. Kama the clause for land ownership. That's a crazy one.
This is not a tantrum of Generation Z and whatnot. All of us are Kenyans. Yes. All of us are citizens. All of us are saying something. And all of us, we are not ignorant.
Outside the venue where President William Ruto was attending the consecration of ACK Nyahururu Diocese, Bishop Samson Gashadi, youths chanted anti-finance bill slogans.
Any excessive force, but we also urge them not to be lawless and destroy or maim or kill.
To the Gen Z generation, I have been followed all through, and I've heard your cry and concerns, and please forgive us where we have failed you as a church.
Gentlemen, a full package there. Wakili, what have you picked? I've picked one thing. In one of their speech, they had a formal and written speech, and they addressed the media, something that has never happened. Number two, the gentleman who had a Kenyan flag in charge raised his hand for like 5 seconds and chanted, "Reject the finance bill." And then the church also said, if we sink, we sink with them. If we drown, we drown them. Olesa Peter also coming out and said the political class must listen to the youth. Let's talk about the church and the youth. Wakili, go ahead.
Now, there is a general agreement in the entire societal psyche and edifice that the economic environment is oppressive to the people, and the finance bill is contributing and fueling into it. That's this. However, it's been marketed negatively or it's the truth, but the fact remains that there's that agreement. Now, there are three groups. The elderly who then have transited from the Moi era to the Kibaki to Uhuru and probably have a more stable emotional approach to it. And therefore, they probably wait, and traditionally they've waited until the next election to have another debate or review of the 5-year term of the presidency and the government. The other one is the middle class and the working class and those that are in business. Those ones are ordinarily hesitant to make a move on account of the fact that it is an instability to the economic well-being, to the fact that they need to fend for their families, and so on and so forth. They have businesses, they have to go to work, and that disruption. And the businessmen came out to say they've lost over 2 billion in the last protest. Then there are the youth, the ones that go to church, the ones that are chanting, the Gen Zs, and those that are within the component of that group. Those ones don't go to work because they have no work. Because they had work, they will have joined the other group.
Yes.
They don't have businesses because they are the businesses, they will go to the other group. They have nothing to lose. Nothing.
Because they don't have a job. The
reason is they have nothing to lose, but if there was something to lose, it was the hope for a job. If I disrupt it, I won't get the job. Even that hope is not there, so there's nothing to lose even in the hope.
So they have that stored energy.
Meaning, meaning even today, and tomorrow, they have nothing to go for, to hope for, to wait for. You can't get them to wait. So for them, it is now. That's why you can see all of us would want to be there to be able to say what they are saying. But it's because some of us are in certain groups. The group that therefore seems to be the prime mover of the protest are the ones that have nothing to lose, have no jobs, and have no future. And therefore, they have no promise for the future, notwithstanding.
I will come back to you, Fadela, but you also tell me something. You know, even the LSK has come out, even the pressure groups and the civil society have also come out to support the Gen Z, saying the police brutality must stop, the police harassment, and all that must stop from the legal point.
The doctors on the side.
Hold on. Yes,
the church. You remember in the days of Moi?
Yes.
Moi would get to church and would say, tusifanye siasa hapa twende pale nje. Sawa. But now, the guys in the political class took advantage of being in church, and now they began bringing politics in church. And I saw, like the other day, Mheshimiwa Sudi, while he was speaking, the father said, listen, tone down the politics. If you don't have anything to tell us about God, no. So there's also that thing, it's a purging from the altar. The purging from the altar is you guys also need God, but don't bring politics in the altar. All right? And I applaud the church for coming in support with the Gen Zs. I saw the likes, all the churches were there. Even yesterday, there were protests of the Christian Gen Zs on the street. And they were chanting and saying how without Jesus, no justice, there was that element yesterday. So for me, when I look at it, I see, my worry is that I hope that the Gen Zs this movement will not be hijacked, because it is legit. It is purging from the altar to the finance bill. Everybody is coming into accountability. And I'll never forget one of my mentors, the former president of Zambia, Chiluba. He told me the tripartite principle. And he told me, I've never forgotten, he said, just like you have body, soul, and spirit, the nation also has a body, soul, and spirit. And he told me the body of a nation is the people, the soul of a nation is the government, and the spirit of a nation is the church. So when the spirit man, when you are sober, you make sober decisions in your soul, and so you will do things that are in tandem with positivity. But when the church is not in place spiritually, then the government has a heyday. So what Gen Zs are doing, they're taking us back to making sure that the altar is for God's purposes, and if you come, we need to feed you spiritually, so that when you go, you make conscious decisions that will affect the people positively with the finance bill, so you don't run helter-skelter. And for that cause, I appreciate the purging within the church, so that if you have something to say, stand there and say, I came and I need you to pray for me. We're making sure the bill is there. We need God's wisdom. That we will do. That we will do.
But again, Wakili, LSK came out, pressure groups also came out. We saw the police brutality. A couple of people, 2-3 people have died so far because of police brutality, gunshot wounds, and etc. Something that somebody would say they came out, they were unarmed. And now this is the time that the legal point now cripple in. That at what point are police going to make sure that much as these protesters are also coming up, the only thing they have is just a bottle of water probably, and their bandana and their placards.
And their phone.
And their phones. So why do you shoot someone dead who is actually exercising his or her Article 37 and Article 33?
Many times in court, I've seen policemen arraigned for shooting and killing illegally or maiming illegally. And let me tell you, the most humbled person you're going to see before court is that policeman accused of those infringements. They have nobody to protect them. You know what I see when I see policemen doing that? I pity them. Because ordinarily, you will execute the order or whatever you perceive at that instance as the best way out. To shoot, to kill, to maim. But when you're taken to task, and invariably they will, because we have so much evidence now circulating, which is being collected, we are collecting, is that when you get to court on your own, the president is not coming to defend you, the MPs are not coming to defend you, your own commander is not coming to defend you. In fact, the record statement as against you, the pistol you used, the ammunition you discharged, there is a whole report from the medical field, a postmortem report that then goes against you, and so on and so forth. And therefore, it is evidence against you by the same government.
As an individual.
By the same government, and you're going to be jailed as an individual. So the police then, even as they look at this as part of the work, there is individual responsibility you're going to take, and invariably, they suffer and their families suffer on account of that moment which you discharge a bullet, which if you hadn't, that wouldn't have happened. But the constant, I think the most important point you're saying is how the society is coalescing on this issue. It's an idea that's being accepted in the whole country that something is wrong. The doctors I was saying are also providing free medical services to those who are injured.
Yes.
The lawyers are on standby. We are on standby for those that get arrested. The businessmen, I have seen, my office is actually around where these protests are happening. I have seen businessmen donating water and food to the protesters. We must even cook and take food to them, to the protesters, because they're not serving themselves. They're serving a cause that is being accepted by everyone. They are simply doing that which many have failed to do.
Can we take a break?
Sure.
Let's take a break.
Okay.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Jasiel Njau, Fadela, and Wakili George Kithi with me in studio. Usiende Bali.
Maji ni uhai, maji ni haki yako.
Je, unajua kwamba wizi wa maji ni uhalifu unaoathiri sisi sote? Hata hivyo, wateja wengi wa maji husalia kimya bila kufahamu madhara yake.
Nuru akinywa hii dawa, nitamtuma kwa Jasiri moja kwa moja.
Jasiri, unataka kupigana na mimi? Unataka kupigana na mimi leo? Huwezi endelea kumfanyia unyama huu shemeji yangu.
Wasreb, tunaadhimisha miaka 20 ya udhibiti wa huduma za maji.
Leo pia furahia uovu uliomfanyia ndugu yako. Lakini siku yako iko.
Nuru akinywa hii dawa, nitamtuma kwa Jasiri moja kwa moja.
Jasiri, unataka kupigana na mimi? Unataka kupigana na mimi leo? Huwezi endelea kumfanyia unyama huu shemeji yangu.
Wewe rukaruka tu kama kuku anayetaka kutaga mayai.
Alafu wewe mzee, ole wako wewe. Chukua hii ndoo yako nikupate nyumbani.
Hapa ni kwa babangu vya.
Na hapa ni kwetu. Na hapa kwetu sikutaki.
welcome back. Youth and governance, that is what we're discussing here. Wakili George Kithi, he says that they're ready, as a legal body, they're ready to support and represent any other person who will be breaking the law, including you as a protester. If you break the law, you will suffer as an individual, including the law enforcers, the police officers, you'll also face the law as an individual. It cuts both ways. But let me ask you, gentlemen, so what will soften the stance of the protesters? We are here now. We are getting to the second week, and this is the most crucial one for the finance bill, and they want a total of actually to be set aside. So what will soften their stance? Fadela.
I love the conversation we are having, and that is if anyone is listening in terms of governance and government, what this government lacks is something known as a human face. A human face is to show that you have an understanding of what people are going through, all right? The other day we witnessed the demolitions that were happening during a rainy season, all right? So there is no human face. Last week you had these guys, the way they were talking and saying these Gen Zs, the KFC and the likes, the way they were what I call verbal diarrhea towards Shiko, they were clearly showing they don't have a human face. If the government is to have an impact to this generation right now, they should have a human face and show we feel, like you see what the president said, we are willing to have a conversation, but go a bit extra. All right, go a bit extra and show you're willing to meet them halfway. That way, everyone will pose and say, the government and the president has shown us he has a human face, he understands. But they don't want to be taken for a ride because you came and said from bottom to up, but we are feeling the pinch and the heat. So for me, I think they should have come up with a human face to show we understand the plight of the people. Yeah. But if you're in a cocoon where 2 or 4, where the majority have their say and the minority have their way, then we do not want these things to escalate. So for the president and his retinue, they need to just have a human face at this particular hour and show we're willing to meet you guys.
Yes, Wakili, what will soften their stance?
Well, first, I do think the president must rein on his representation. There are people, I have not had the president rhetoric on this, so he's very careful on how he pronounces himself. But there are people who brazenly are insulting the public and making it clear that come what may, we are in leadership and we'll have our way. I think the communication a platform for the president is either misused or alternatively completely in disarray. And therefore, the government, one characteristic of this government is that it does not process itself in an amiable manner for the person to be able to understand it. Even if it is doing good things, those things are completely unavailable for the consumption of the public because of how it communicates. Somehow there seemed to be indiscipline in the cabinet on how they bespeak to the people, and the indiscipline in those that are seen to be the face of the present representation, especially members of parliament. It is possible to have a conversation, and I did see, for instance, President Uhuru Kenyatta sometimes talking to the people. You saw him during COVID. It was a very oppressive moment. Yes. But he will take responsibility personally and cajole on the people and express the hope and willingness continuously. One of the reasons why you become a leader is to give people hope. Continuously rallying them around a cause. Where is the cause here? Where is the cause other than the insults that we see on public forums? Whether it's about shareholders, whether this thing will go through, whether you like it or not, we have the numbers calling each other names. I think that's indiscipline. So to give us hope, you don't insult us. There's a way you talk to us, and we will understand because it's communication. So the government needs to be a good communicator. Number two, that which is a prime mover of all this is the budget. You need to communicate to us that the issues, either an overhaul of the issues that are contentious are being addressed. And number three, in any event, the laws that we've made, including Constitution and the Public Finance Management Act, and all laws that are coalescing around the budgeting process, have provisions on what should happen if the budgeting cycle is disrupted in the manner that is being threatened here. So you can't tell us this is cast in stone, it must pass. If you are saying we need a conversation, we are the country. We always, I mean, we've overhauled an entire constitution in this country.
Yeah.
And we can do it. And therefore, alone budgeting, honestly, cannot
be a process, though.
That which is cast in stone.
Yeah.
And we have provisions on what happens if the budget is not passed. But it is not the first time. The last time we had the Senate. I mean, there was a problem on the formula for division. And eventually it was passed. But it had a record 12 times within which it was rejected. The reason is there was this 1 shilling, one thing, all that argument that we had.
Yeah.
So that was at that time also a crisis of sorts, but we sorted ourselves out. This time, it is not in Parliament, in the Senate. It is not in Parliament, in the August House. It is the people themselves.
Demanding for the total...
That time it was the representative. This time it's the people.
Yes.
So it's the same thing.
So it
what
is,
we are saying is, as it was sorted
possible
then,
and okay to set it aside.
Yes, as it was sorted then,
right,
through meetings and discussion and updating the public, it should be sorted now. It should not be a big deal. It should be able to be sorted. But when we see the rhetoric that is going on until we've reached where we are, it is because something is wrong somewhere. Yeah. Not with the people. It is the leadership.
It is the leadership.
I was going to say the aspect of being fair.
Yes.
To Mr. Speaker, where you find
to Mr. Speaker,
where you find Solomonic wisdom is needed at this hour. You remember there was a time where if the country came to a place and like he's well articulated it comes to a place where Solomonic wisdom is needed at this hour for fairness, and that fairness is like put it aside and let everyone have this conversation with everyone. Now, he mentioned about President Uhuru, and you see the way we navigated through COVID, and the president would come talk and help us understand as a people.
Fellow Kenyans.
Fellow Kenyans.
Until people are like...
You now know fellow Kenyans.
Fellow Kenyans.
And the way you would respond.
Yeah.
So I agree. If the president can come down and be fair, he's like the mediator this hour who needs to come down and say, hey, people, let's go this way. And tone your guys and make sure they toe the line so that we don't have that verbal diarrhea that we are seeing outside there. For me, that fairness and then coming through as a human face, and you can put it aside, like the legal expert has said, I think it's possible. It's possible.
And life will find its own path.
Yeah.
So there's the Gen Z, all the protesters are saying that they are fighting for their parents. And you can see clearly that the older generation are not on the streets. It's the younger generation who are on the streets. And when you listen to them, what they say is, we are fighting for our parents who are overburdened. We are fighting for our parents who are now paying the taxes. But then we are also being told, even if you're not working, you're still going to be taxed. But the key word here, we are fighting for the injustices that our parents and all our older folks fought for. Wakili, let me ask you, so at this particular point, the Gen Z is now fighting for their fathers and their mothers and the older generations. That has come a long way. So somebody would say, then it's like taking a bottle of soda, shaking it, and then all of a sudden you pop up the bottle. We all know what happens.
No, I think what they're doing is a constant with our society. You know, none of us asked to be a Kenyan. I didn't ask to be a Kenyan. I didn't ask. In fact, I may be regretting to be one. But the point is this. The point is this. We woke up and one day we were Kenyans.
It's an interesting day in Kenya.
Yes. We woke up and one day we were Kenyans. Yes. The point is, before Kenya became, we were there as a people. Variegated in our own ways, the Masai, the Mijikendas, the whatever, all over. But one day we were put together in a geographical setup called Kenya. And we mutated into this governance story that we are discussing today. And therefore, because we have rules, yet we were different, everyone, for fairness, has to toy to the rule. That's one. Two, in those days, when the Maasais are going to take the cows of the Kambas and the Kambas are taking the goats of this one, if you have to defend yourself, you take the youth to defend you. That's what we are doing. We are taking the youth to defend us. So the older folk, therefore, relies on the youth for existence of society. What are the youth doing? They're preserving the society.
Yes.
Because the threat is unto the older people who seem to have their own weaknesses. For instance, if you're a civil servant, you won't go to the streets. But the youth knows that he is fed by the job of his father. And the father, therefore, is the one that remains in the mosque. But the protestation has the blessings of the parents. So it is the societal youth that preserve the society, and not the other way. And therefore, as we did it then, we are doing it now. What it means, therefore, is it's proper in order for the youth to fight, not only for society, but for themselves, but for the entire society. The issues being discussed have nothing to do with 1 shilling, 1 tribe, and therefore we are many and we contribute more. No.
Yeah.
They have never mentioned a tribe and they're tribeless. They have never mentioned a class and they're classless.
Not even a party. They
don't even have a political party. And by the way, they have rejected any political interruptions. They are organizing themselves. Point is, how did it even get there? How did it even get there? It got there because there has been persistence and consistency in the wrong that is being perceived, which was not addressed, and they were ignored. Now look at where it is. If you continue to ignore them, of course, there's a build-up every day. This is how it's going to happen. If the youth are going to persist and there's resistance, there is another forum. The millennials have not jumped in. The middle class has not even jumped into this forum. We are still watching the Gen Zs. And the older folk, as you have said, have not jumped in. When it gets there, there'll be a revolution. And therefore, it is good that the conversation we have now is a conversation for everyone. Let us discuss it. Let us discuss it. You can't ignore the youth. You can't be planning without them because they want the jobs. In fact, show me in this budget where the jobs are. Tell me in this budget, from this budget we have 1,000 jobs. None. And I've said, even if there is, the government is a bad communicator.
Article 37 and 33, completely in force. Go ahead. Fadela.
The generation that we're dealing with right now, my plea, and I appreciate where they're coming from, and I appreciate the way they're organizing themselves, is to get to a place whereby they will hold this nation to accountability. And for me, the political class, this includes the president and his retinue of cabinet and ministers, they should get to a place where they have an ear to listen. Old men will dream dreams. Young men will have visions. And these guys have the strength. They have the will. You will know a father by the strength of the son. So this generation, the way they're coming up, they have the strength, they have the vitality, and they have something at their disposal which is a strength which we never had in our times, which is the digital space. And they have mastered. When you see the DCI saying, we want to ask the Gen Zs, help us locate this person, the DCI, and the Gen Zs will go and they will get, and they will even send the picture and send even the way when you were married and your car. You know, these guys have an element that the nation needs. And so for me, the youth are the ones fighting. And if the president does not listen, then he's going to put other people to come in. Once they come in, now that one has taken, it's going to be a rolling moss that it's going to gather moss.
Yes.
And so for me, the youth, the vitality they have, they're doing good, but there is a caution. And that's why I repeated by saying the way they say register as voters, for me that's the best way, because in the near future they will be the ones to decide who will be the MCA all the way to the governance. So let them do that, and let the governance and the presidents be at a place where they begin to realize we need to hearken.
I'm told we're running out of time, but let me ask you this question, gentlemen. Do you think there's a hidden hand, a political hidden hand somewhere?
Well, I think there are definitely the subconscious of politics in this. Yes, there's a platform building up for the opposition in this protest. That's a platform for the opposition, not for government. But again, there's also a platform for government if the government is wise enough to use this movement to its advantage. Basically address them and put them on your fold, because it's possible. It's not all lost. How this is handled defines the future, especially 2027. It has all bearings of 2027.
That was my last question I wanted to ask you.
It has all bearings of 2027.
Did you take my notes? It's like you took my notes. So what effect does it have? As you also answered that was finalized, what effect does it have on 2027?
Before that, there's a group known Anonymous. They would like to take advantage of the instability of a government.
Yes.
And they're getting
hidden hand somewhere.
The hidden hand.
Yeah.
And we do not want to get to a place where this movement is hijacked. And the ripple effect of this 2027, where you had Baba with about this, Ruto with about this, then there's the 8 million that did not vote. This is where they're going to galvanize and bulk their votes. So this is not a movement that needs to be taken lightly, because if they can do this, how much more in terms of an election campaign? No, you didn't see anyone talking, but they marshaled themselves. So for me, it's going to get to a place whereby it becomes a very serious political move that can destabilize the elite. And for me, it's good, because millennials and Gen Zs constitute of about 57 to 60% of the votes. And they are the ones that constitute about 80% of this generation. So if they plan the way they are doing now, this is more for me like a referendum of sorts.
Imagine you have a Gen Z president.
Can you imagine? it happened in, I think it's Ecuador, where the president came in.
Yeah, the DJ.
He was voted,
remember the DJ president?
And he was voted in, and he...
Rajolina.
You see?
Yeah.
So it's possible. But here's the thing. Accountability and vision and purpose. We are getting to a place where we'll have a Kenyan dream. A Kenyan dream where you say, yes. You know, like Americans, where they say the American dream, the way we are going, we'll have a Kenyan dream. Because now we'll be clear on terms of manifestos.
My landed friend,
yes, I think the clarion call to the presidency and the government is, these protesters are not irritants, neither the imbeciles. They are people who know what they are doing. There are presidents who've handled world wars in this country. They are in this world. There are presidents who've handled crisis all over the world and made it by standing with the people. I think it is time that President Ruto looks at this not as an irritation. It is probably a development of our democracy. He should then go in history as having faced this crisis and come out on top for the people and not for his government.
Gentlemen, tumalizie hapo. Thank you so much. It has been an amazing discussion. I wish you had more time, but hey, we'll have another more time so that we can continue this discussion. Thank you so much for joining me. Jasiel Njau, who calls himself Fadel. He never passed a WhatsApp status.
In 2017 and 2022, I ran and I was cleared by IBC in 2021.
At least you went
as governor of
the status.
I passed WhatsApp status. In 2022, I went and made it to TV, and the party refused me. So coming soon.
You're a fighter. You're a fighter. Wakili, thank you so much for joining me as well. Asante sana. You know what? Anything you do, there is somebody called Aristotle. He said, everything you do, do it with moderation. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Victor Oloo. Good morning.